Hello and welcome to WNHH Radio's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. Barry Nalebuff makes New Haven tick, along with everyone who drinks iced tea and eats breakfast. Barry is a Yale School of Management professor who may have just entered the Business Punning Hall of Fame. Barry is now officially a serial entrepreneur, but cereal is spelled C-E-R-E-A-L. After founding successful companies like Honest Tea, Barry has launched Maker Overnight Oats, a play on words in itself and a new way to eat breakfast. Barry's in the WNHA studio today to tell us about that. Thanks for coming in, Barry.
Thanks for having me.
Great. I'm going to ask you to get real close to that mic.
You bet.
And we're going to thank Yale New Haven Hospital for providing support for today's program. So, Barry, you've led such an interesting life, and there's so many things you could talk about with Barry, but I'm going to talk to you about breakfast today. And so tell me about this new product you have created and are marketing called Maker Overnight Oats.
Well, the world has a problem, and that is none of us have time for breakfast. We're crazed. As I discovered from one focus group, there was a woman who takes baby food in pouches and scarfs that down because
for herself.
She has no kids,
but
goodness. That's her way of.
Although there is some of that nature's baby food that really isn't bad. It's
I didn't say it's bad. I just said
like a smoothie of peas.
It's just not not the intended purpose. Another couple I met, they take turns figuring out who gets to take a shower that day.
Oh my goodness, that's pathetic.
It is, but they have to get the kids out of the house, and so the question is, how can you have a fantastic breakfast when nobody has time to make cereal or anything else? You can't make eggs, omelets. People talk about, oh, I wait for the weekend when I have my omelets, when I get my oatmeal. And
Barry, you're breaking my heart about modern America.
Well, that's the way we are in terms of, especially when you have kids.
Yeah, I know.
And so you do everything you can the night before. You can try and lay your kids' clothes out so everything is all set to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, what about making breakfast the night before? And it turns out that there's something called overnight oats, which in Europe would be called muesli, but Americans can't pronounce that U.
Yeah.
And if you take oatmeal and you mix it with some spices and some seeds and some dried fruits, and you let it soak overnight, you can wake up to the world's most wonderful, healthy, delicious, filling breakfast.
So, I never realized that about muesli. So it's not like you invented this. You're tinkering with the recipe, but the concept's been around.
I hardly even tinkered with the recipe.
But I didn't even know. So when people buy muesli, because I know they sell it here.
Yeah.
People soak it overnight, or they mostly just put it in their bowl and eat it then?
A lot of people just cover it with yogurt and eat it then, but you can soak it overnight.
I can see why that would be better. And I did product test your product, and I see the point.
And so, and it's not as if the recipes are any particular secret. I mean, the fact is that you could go and you could buy mulberries and chia and freeze-dried bananas and golden berries and dates. And if you had all of those ingredients and you mix them in really a terrific proportion and you got all the spices right, you could do exactly what we've done. But here's the thing. We tried 100 different recipes.
Really?
And so we got it really right.
Mm.
And it takes time to mix all those things together. And I've discovered that if you don't mix them in pretty good proportions, you can actually make a pretty bad recipe.
I can see that one, yeah.
And then the other thing is that if you go and try and buy mulberries and chia and freeze-dried bananas and freeze-dried coffee and golden berries and dates, well, it's going to be super expensive because you're going to have to buy it in, relatively speaking, small quantities. And so this is one of those cases where we can make the product for you quicker and cheaper and better than you can make it for yourself.
So, Barry, how did it come that this professor who travels around the world, you were just in Beijing, for instance, as a management professor, an expert on issues like cooperation versus competition, you coined the phrase co-opetition. I got that right.
It is the phrase competition in Boston.
Competition.
But we actually didn't coin it. Ray Norda did.
But you guys popularized
it.
But in any case, how does someone who deals with these big pictures, who formed another big company we'll talk about soon, Honest Tea, when did you say, now I'm going to start a cereal company?
Well, I like to find problems that are easy to solve, that I don't have to go and hire a test kitchen or a lab, but something that you can really do an invention in your kitchen counter.
And you like to do real life entrepreneurialism in addition to being a academic ivory tower professor.
Absolutely. And in this particular case, I had an opportunity to bring the concept to PepsiCo right at the start.
Because of your success with Honest Tea, I'm thinking.
I think that you might say that had something to do with it. And so along with the pleasure of trying to bring this new product to market, I also had the experience of learning how innovation works from the ground level inside a large company. And that's
because
something,
before you sold to a large company, so this is different.
so this is seeing sort of, because there's a question of why is it that large companies have challenges doing innovation? And I saw those issues when I served on the board of Nationwide Insurance. And but board members are often really protected from seeing the nitty-gritty challenges. And so when you're there in the struggle, you get to figure out why the company with all these resources still can have trouble doing things that seem so elementary.
Sort of like be learning what IBM had to learn.
I don't know what I mean what IBM had to learn.
Because they had to figure out how to be nimble and innovative when the tech revolution hit.
I see. Okay. Or relearn, because maybe at one point they were.
Yeah, that's true. Relearned. So Barry, let's walk back for a second. When did you get this idea? Hey, you just explained what the challenge was, how to mix it, how to fix it, how to adjust an idea from Europe. But when did you say, I'm going to start a cereal company?
I had been seeing that this was popping up all over the web in terms of people put Snapchats of Pinterest pictures of their overnight oats. I mean, so you could see that there was this trend happening. It was something that was very popular.
When was this?
3-4 years ago.
So you got this idea 3-4 years ago.
But at the same time, even though sort of the leading edge people were doing it, other folks had heard about it, but were a little scared and weren't quite sure how to do it themselves. And so, look, the fact with Honest Tea is you can make your own tea, right? I mean, it's not that there's some secret intellectual property idea here, but what we've done is made it better and more convenient.
It's true. Honest Tea tastes better than anything I would make by myself, and I do brew tea. So 3-4 years ago, you're noticing on social media, Barry Nalebuff, that people want to use some form of overnight oats. They don't have time to make breakfast. A bunch of people feel like, I'm not sure I could do it well. Your entrepreneurial endorphins are exploding, saying, oh my God, this could be a good company. Maybe I can do it. When did you go about starting to make it happen, and how did you do that?
I worked in my kitchen and bought lots of oatmeal. And
did you make your wife and your daughter eat the stuff?
Make is not, I'm sure
you encourage them. Family project.
Oof.
Did you ruin any of their days by giving them chocolate chips mixed with mulberries one day?
No, but I think it turns out that my beloved spouse is less keen on peanut butter flavored overnight oats than I am.
I'm with her.
So,
although smoothies are okay with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I actually think that
so good. Right?
The peanut butter cacao is really quite nice. But I have not yet persuaded.
So you started experimenting at home.
Exactly.
For your family.
And then we start eating a lot of it. And then when I go out to places like you can go to Blue Bottle and you can buy it there, or actually out in California, there's a place called, I think, Moon Cafe, which served it.
I think I've been there.
Yeah, Moon Juice, maybe that's what it is. And so you sort of see ideas of how people are doing it. It turns out Irving Roasters Coffee has a very nice apricot one. The idea of mulberries I saw from Moon Juice. And so essentially, what are the ways that people are making this product already? And I think I was able to reproduce those recipes and then improve upon them.
So you're a little bit Bill Gates there with Microsoft, but also a little bit Steve Jobs making the perfect art form.
Trying, and look, let's be clear with Honest Tea. Where do we come up with our recipes? Well, in Morocco, people drink green tea with honey and mint. Okay, so Moroccan mint.
I love that one, by the way.
Me too. So the idea that there's something out there that generally people have tried and make work.
That's why I'm saying Bill Gates popularized.
Yeah.
But so Barry, at what point did it evolve? At what point did it proceed to now I'm starting the company?
Well, I went and made. I bought some ball jars. Put it in ball jars. Made some really nice pictures of the ingredients.
You made the picture yourself?
I did.
So you're good art?
No, they're okay.
On the web?
I can show you the pictures I made and then the pictures that they ended up doing.
Because your stuff's good. I mean, like, it was on the website for this and your other stuff. The graphics are good.
Oh, the graphics are amazing, but that wasn't when
That's when you get to the stage where you pay somebody.
At this point, I can show you the before and after.
So you did Barry's homegrown bell jars.
Barry's homegrown with hand-printed labels, and brought them into PepsiCo.
Oh.
And basically said, okay, I'd like to work with you and make this happen.
So when was this?
This was roughly 2 years ago.
Are they based where? White Plains?
White Plains, although the reality is that this is the part of PepsiCo which is Quaker.
Mm-hmm.
And
which we'll get to my favorite pun here. But yeah, where's Quaker?
Quaker's in Chicago.
Okay, so Barry, how long ago was this?
2 years ago.
Okay, I'm sorry you did say that. So you got to that point.
Yeah.
And you had tested a bunch and you saw who liked what.
Correct.
And just for our listeners to understand what we're referring to before in passing, you have a great track record.
True.
You started a company called Honest Tea, which unlike some other companies that might call themselves the greatest stuff on earth, really is
made with the greatest stuff on earth.
Yeah, but this stuff actually is. It only has a little bit of sweetener, so you're not getting the sickly sweet.
Exactly.
Real tea. You're tasting real tea.
Real tea,
but
real
iced
taste.
tea with some terrific, delicate flavors, and that was wildly successful. You started in 1998,
and the sales now are about closing around $500 million.
And you hit your 1 billionth bottle.
No, 3 billion now.
Oh my God! You got to update your website, Barry.
Yeah, well,
that happened fast.
There are people outside my immediate family who seem to be drinking it.
And then 2011 was the big cash in Coke. So now you're with Pepsi, but you sold the Coke in 2011.
That's true.
And by the way, we're talking to Barry Nalebuff. And Barry Nalebuff is a Yale School of Management professor who just has great ideas that he takes to the real life market. He made Honest Tea, which was wildly successful. Now he has a new product we're talking about today called Maker Overnight Oats. So you can have a terrific breakfast fast. We're talking about how he started that company, and we're talking about it on WNHH-FM, your home for community radio, on 103.5 and live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. So, Barry, you sold that in 2011, Honest Tea.
Yep.
But you're still active, right? You're on the board?
I was on the advisory board for 3 years, but now it's in good hands.
And what did that experience teach you about business and about, so many entrepreneurs do aim eventually to either go public or sell to a public company. There's always those fears that it loses the integrity of the product, the original mission. You're basically, not only for your personal, cashing in, you're also trading for wide availability. So many more people get to drink something good you produced because Coke is marketing and bottling it. Looking back on it now, what did you learn and what surprised you about having your baby become corporate?
I think there's a big, one important thing to keep in mind is that much of the social responsibility associated with Honest Tea is in the product itself.
Unlike Ben & Jerry's.
Unlike
which
Ben &
will
Jerry's.
kill you, but you get some of the dividends for the Peace Fair and all that.
Exactly. And so to the extent that we can sell 1 billion bottles or 2 billion bottles, we actually achieve more of our mission in terms of changing American health. And I like to...
And does it retain? Because you no longer have a say if Coke says that we're going to sell more of this. If we really up the sweetener and use some fructose and, it still has the cachet because Barry created this product that people believe in, but we can cheapen it and poison people a little bit and then really cash in. And we need to have those quarterly returns for our shareholders.
Yeah, well, it turns out they haven't done that. And I think were they to do that, they would destroy the whole value of what it is they purchased.
So today when I buy Honest Tea at Edge of the Woods, it's the same Honest Tea.
Actually, it's better. In the following way that Coca-Cola was able to, one, bring our costs down, and therefore we could keep the prices lower. And that actually makes it more accessible.
There's the advantage of scale. Okay.
And to give you a sense of that, the cost we were spending per bottle, the piece of, the glass or the plastic for it was 19 cents. Coca-Cola could get it for 11. So on 100 million bottles, that's $8 million a year.
Wow.
Okay? Just so.
Was there any downside?
I'll get that. So let me give you some more of the upsides. So we have lower costs and hence lower pricing, much more availability. We're able to transition all of our products, not just from organic, but organic and fair trade. And that's, again, something that we're able to scale through the help of Coca-Cola.
And there's an argument of socially responsible investing that in the private market and through large corporations, we can sometimes accomplish more social goals like fair trade with the third world by putting the pressure on the companies that do it in scale and make it worth their time.
Well, here's the thing.
Like in your case, have it be part of the appeal of the product.
Let's be clear. I could jump up and down in the corners all day talking about fair trade.
Yeah.
But if I can sell 1 billion bottles of product which has fair trade tea in it, then I'm doing a whole lot more.
And how do you know that it really is fair trade? How do you there are independent monitors?
There's independent fair trade monitors.
Excellent.
And so
these are definitely some upsides.
So the ability to have an impact goes with scale. And that when you do $1 billion or $3 billion of a product, bottles of a product which is fair trade, then you actually start changing what farmers are doing. And you also demonstrate that this is an economically viable approach that other people can copy.
Now, you had no guarantees, correct, when you sold the company, the Coke. Would the Coke have any restrictions that for the next 20 years we're going to continue to have organic tea in it or fair trade, or they're able to do what they want and you just had to have faith that the market was going to respond to what was making the product sell?
Well, again, it wouldn't have made sense to purchase this and then change what it is. And we had a constitution, if you'd like, that we wrote that says all products will be less than 100 calories and that will continue to be organic, but that's not a binding.
That's what I'm saying, because, Barry, a lot of big corporations do things that don't make sense. I was at a newspaper that was bought by a chain that did everything that didn't make sense and it went out of business.
I'll give you an example of something they tried to do, almost did. It didn't make sense. But the fact is that with that document, if they were to have gone and changed the focus, they probably would have led to some bad PR. Never mind killing the brand.
Sure.
There's one other place, though, I think, which is important for us in terms of we had impact. One of the products we made for kids is called Honest Kids. And we were one of the things I learned in life is to go after competitors who are not loved, because essentially it's then easier to take their customers away. So, for example, if I had a good innovation to go against Comcast, it's not as
you would get the Nobel Peace Prize,
right? Not a lot of people out there saying I love my cable provider.
You would be able to parade at the Worcester Square Annual Festival. People would put dollars in your pocket if you bumped off Comcast.
Yeah. So. Who in the beverage world, I would say one of the least loved firms out there was Capri Sun in terms of their kids' juice.
And who owns them?
That was Kraft.
It's not like Coke is the white hats.
Yeah. And by the way, I think it was earlier developed by one of the tobacco companies in terms of making these really super sweet, high flavored products for kids. They took what lessons they had on tobacco and figured out how they could make things like Kool-Aid and Hawaiian Punch and Capri Sun.
Wow.
So the Capri Sun pouch had 110 calories in something like 6.75 ounces. It was significantly sweeter than sodas.
Wow.
And no wonder why kids got sugar shock and would bounce off the walls. And so what we did is took the Capri Sun product, got rid of the high fructose corn syrup, cut the calories from 110 to 40, made it organic, and the product has totally taken off.
And did you do that before you sold the Coke or after?
We did it before. Now, initially, before we sold to Coke, the biggest impact we had was the Capri Sun changed its recipe. And they went from 110 to 80.
Ooh, you're still 40, though. And they were
understand.
a damaged brand.
Well, but here's the thing. So we had a huge impact in the world because there may have been 1 million people who bought our product, but there were 1 billion of their pouches sold.
And theirs got better.
And theirs went from 110 to 80. So we had a big impact in the world, but not through us. Now that we're part of Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola introduced us to McDonald's, and the Honest Kids pouch is part of the Happy Meal.
Wow.
And so this year, there'll be something like 200 million pouches that are sold at McDonald's of Honest Kids.
Wow. So you are really becoming an evangelist for big capitalism, unless you're about to tell me what the downsides were or what almost happened wrong.
Well, I'll give you the example of where I think being the founders and having the vision helped make sure we didn't mess things up. When Coca-Cola owned the product, they wanted to do some focus groups for kids and ask them what they thought about the taste. And we said that we thought that was a complete waste of money, but we couldn't stop them from spending their money. And so they did. And when they did the focus group, I think, 85 out of 100 kids said they wanted the product to be sweeter. And so Coca-Cola was considering not putting in high fructose corn syrup, but putting in more sweetener. And we said that completely misunderstood what the product design was.
And who were we?
Seth and I, my co-founder. And
you were on the advisory board. This was the first 3 years?
This was the first 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Completely misunderstood what the target was that we weren't selling the pouches to the kids. We're selling the pouches to their parents. And that the parents were buying it not based on the taste, but based on the label. And essentially what our goal was is how unsweet could we make it so the kids would still drink it and not have to be bribed to drink it. Because the goal was we want the kids to be hydrated, we want them to be happy, but we don't want them to be getting overly calorie, overly sugared.
So how did it end up, Barry? Who won?
We won in the end.
How did you win?
Well, we basically helped explain to them what our objective was and why we designed it that way.
And did they agree with you?
They did, but they wasted a lot of money and time along the way.
Well, that's okay. But what I wonder now is you're no longer on that board. You're no longer in the room.
Yeah.
Leadership often changes at big companies at all levels.
Mm-hmm.
And there are always pressures to do something new and different to boost short-term profits.
Okay, but Honest Kids is really working. I mean, when you go into McDonald's and you sell 200 million of them, they say, okay, this one I don't need to change.
And maybe if you have a 10, 20-year run where you've done a great thing with the product and then a company goes off the rails, we'll invent something new that'll take that market share.
Or I'd say actually what we're really seeing is more people are copying us. So Snapple has now come out with a low-calorie option. Lipton has come out with low-calorie teas and less sweet teas.
But I bet they don't taste as good as Honest Tea.
Okay, they don't taste as good, but they taste a lot better than the old products.
And it doesn't have the same status when you go to your sort of liberal upper class idealistic meeting, like a meetup or something. You want to show what product you have.
Absolutely.
And the products we're talking about were invented by Barry Nalebuff, a Yale School of Management professor who hangs out in the real world and does quite well inventing products with puns in the name, like Honest Tea, and like his new product, Maker Oats.
We thought of the tagline, Meet Your Maker.
Meet your maker. And Maker Oats, like Quaker Oats, which actually is the company that runs it.
You thought of that? I mean, how did you come up with that? I had no idea.
And makes him a serial entrepreneur, as in CEREAL. And he's talking about that on Dateline New Haven. We have just a few minutes left here. 103.5 FM live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. So let's swing back to your new product.
Yeah.
So you went to Pepsi. You went to your competitor.
Not much.
So Coke owns your old company, Honest Tea.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to them instead of Pepsi?
Well, Coca-Cola doesn't do food.
Oh, really? No snacks?
Just not even snacks.
And Pepsi has a good chairwoman, right? Everyone likes her.
Andrea Newey was at the time
involved with Yale.
Well, she's a graduate of SOM where I teach.
Friend of Ned Lamont.
As well as Ned Lamont. And like I said,
so you knew her?
I knew her a little bit. And
so was she the one you called?
She's the one I called.
It's good to have contacts.
Doesn't hurt.
See, I went to Yale and I never got any of these contacts. You guys really know
what
how to work it.
What do you mean? You know me.
I got you. That's right. I get Barry Nalebuff in. So that's because I know your wife.
There you go. Well, okay.
So Barry, you called the CEO, or did you email her?
Email.
Okay, not text.
No, I don't do text.
And did she immediately say, "Come make a pitch"?
I don't know immediately, but soon enough.
So you were on a plane to Chicago.
No. What? Where is it? Not White Plains. Right next to White Plains, New York.
In Greenberg or no?
Oh my God, wherever.
Ardsley.
It begins with
I grew up around there. With a D?
P.
Poughkeepsie, Peekskill. Okay, so you went to Westchester County.
Yep.
Not Pelham. No, Westchester County. And you immediately got a hearing with a division of Quaker?
No, actually, Indra Newey and one of her senior executives met.
Had you taught her, by the way?
No. I had done some strategy sessions for her senior leadership team.
But how did you know her at SOM?
She is a highly successful alum who
she'd been back,
supports the school, and also she had been interested in purchasing Honest Tea.
Oh, so she lost out last time. She said, Barry's got some great new idea. I want to be first out of the gate this time.
Well, actually, I said it the other way.
Oh, you said you lost last. What'd you say to her exactly in that email?
Look, let's do this one from the start.
Oh, those are the exact words you used?
Something like that.
Let's do this one from the start.
Yeah.
And what'd she say? Okay.
So then she had me make a presentation to her whole senior management team.
That must have been fun.
It was. I brought them samples
of fun life, Barry,
of my product, and then I also made somewhat cheekily some of their product.
What was their product?
Well, they have some Quaker oatmeals that you can buy that were pre-made.
Yeah, I would never buy those.
Well, let's put it this way. I won the taste test.
They tasted it right there?
They did.
So you did so good overnight before you went?
Yep.
Did you use milk or nut milk?
I used various things. I really like macadamia nut milk. I'm a big fan of a company called Milkademia. The
Mhm.
motto is "Moo is Moot."
Called that for now. If the dairy industry wins its battle to outlaw the word milk.
Yeah, but Milkademia is not a real word, so they can probably say that.
You think so?
Yeah, it's one word. MILKAD.
Yeah, but you don't think lawyers will say it has milk in it? You're marketing it as milk? Plus, do you think who's going to win that
I
battle?
mean, so Mike Milken has to change his name too.
Who do you think is going to win that, by the way, in the end?
I think that there are other more important first world problems to think about.
That's right. You don't work at the law school. It's kind of an interesting legal question.
And I made other versions of it with kefir and some with cow milk so that you could see the different ways.
So you went to Westchester. You had the CEO of the whole company there.
Yeah.
And what happened after that meeting? They immediately say you're on?
We negotiated what a reasonable way of selling the company. And essentially, since I had no sales, really the way we worked it is that I would be rewarded based on the success of the idea.
So you didn't get money up front?
A little bit.
But basically on the sale. So you can't have an ownership stake because it's a big company.
Exactly. I don't have an ownership stake.
So what is your stake? What's your title? Because you have a made-up title on the website.
It's not a made-up title.
It's a made-up
title.
Come
it's
on,
not
Barry.
a real title. I got promoted.
Now, what was it? Chief Troublemaker.
Chief Troublemaker. I was assistant troublemaker, and then I made enough trouble that I got.
But what is your title there?
That is it, Chief Troublemaker.
But you get
everybody in the organization has a maker. So our head is our rainmaker, our PR or our noisemakers, our people who help us with product design, our tastemakers.
So what year was that meeting in Westchester?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, so 2017 or 2016?
Okay, I can subtract 2, and I think
no,
you
but we're
can
at the
too,
beginning
from
of 2019. But we're at the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
2 years ago, you went to Westchester. CEO said we like it. You negotiated. You would get paid primarily a percentage of the sales. Yeah. And how about your role in developing it and the decision step by step? Were you part of some committee? Did you once a month go on a chat online?
I had a partner inside the company who I work with very closely, and we make all our decisions collaboratively.
And you're still doing that? Like how many hours a week are you spending on this?
It varies. Some weeks more, some weeks less. So I was just out at Expo West where we had the food show, so that was a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting all sorts of clients. When I'm trying to develop new products, that can be a little bit more time consuming. When we're doing design for packaging, I get involved in that. And actually another fun thing here is that we've won all sorts of packaging awards, and I get to teach my students the issue of how to work with creative people, which is something our MBAs need to understand. And our designer, a fellow named Dan Walter in Chicago, who's brilliant, is also one of my former students. So that was another great thing about this project.
And am I right to assume that when you're doing your next big product after Honest Tea, that this deal enabled you to avoid the less fun stuff? You didn't have to worry about the manufacturing plants, the distribution networks, buying from the glass or the paper or the cardboard, that you really just got to do primarily the fun stuff, dreaming and scheming how we're going to package it, what flavors, how we're going to work with different nut milks. Am I right in that? That going through Pepsi on the front end, unlike doing it yourself for 3 years and then going to Coke, enabled you to do the part you loved?
Yeah, look, you give up some upside.
Mm-hmm.
And you get
upside is money, right? You would have made more money if you'd made it successful first, but you would have had to break your butt
and take more risks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's true. I had a little bit more of the fun side, and also learned a lot about how innovation works and doesn't work in corporate America.
What's the biggest lesson you drew on that?
That I think corporate America is really focused on something called matrix management, where you have one person whose job is buying, one person who's doing finance, one person who's doing accounting, one person who's doing production. And they do this across lots of different brands. And then the problem is you have lots of specialists as opposed to one person who is a jack of all trades, master of many, opposed to master of none. And to be a successful entrepreneur, I think you really have to understand all the different parts of the project and be able to make trade-offs. And so it's not like, well, how do I make this thing perfectly? It's, okay, I could do it this way, but if I do it another way, I'll get something that's 95% as good, but the cost will go down by 30%. And if you just give somebody the specs, their job is to figure out how to make what you told them to make. And my answer is, well, I didn't have to make it exactly that way. I kind of want to do something like that. Let's figure out what's a more cost-effective way of doing this.
So does this innovation, given that that's key to innovation, have the flexibility across silos, is it better if you have someone who's been trained in SOM in those various aspects, who's then an entrepreneur taking the risk and making those kind of
It's
cross-discipline
not the risk
decisions?
aspect. It's simply the ability to be holistic about it. So, for example, the finance side, they don't really care about, well, I'll do inventory for a moment. The person with inventories, their job is how to manage inventories in the most efficient way. And they're going to get rewarded by not having too many inventories or having lots of turns, how often the product turns over. But in our early stage, it's our sales aren't that big. And so it doesn't make sense for us to do tiny production runs. And so we have to do production runs that are longer and bigger than it makes sense that you'd otherwise want to do, for given our sales, because otherwise either setup costs, there's material that gets lost in the tubes and stuff when you start up and shut down. And so we're going to need to have what looks like excess inventory. Okay. But the problem is the person in charge of inventory doesn't like that. And their job is to, in some sense, keep our inventory too low.
So what do you conclude from that? That it's better to have product innovation take place in smaller companies that are better trained, or that the bigger companies need to adapt to know how to have someone who's a project manager who can monitor that process and make sure that those obstacles don't come?
Exactly. Having one person who has more responsibility across different areas, I think, is going to be essential. And then you have to, in some sense, override a lot of what's the matrix management. It works better.
So you got to convince companies to embrace that, right? But they want to embrace innovation, so maybe it's not hard. You got to train the people at SOM who are good at that.
People are good at both parts. The answer is that when you're doing things that are routine, then let's get the purchasing person to figure out how I can get the dried apples at the absolute lowest cost. But when you're not doing something that's routine, it's like, well, okay, I can have green apples, I can have red apples, I can have a mixture of green apples and red apples, and they're all pretty good, and let me just see what my options are in this regard. And so having the ability to make trade-offs and choices and seeing, going across different opportunities is something that is, I think, is essential for the startup, and is something that large companies which, well, there's a great expression I like that Peter Lynch said. He was the person who ran the very successful Magellan Fund. His line was, you should invest in companies that can be run by idiots, because eventually they will. And I think a lot of large companies make themselves idiot-proof. But the same way you make yourself idiot-proof also makes it very hard to do innovation.
So your idea is that at the early stage, have someone who's not an idiot.
No, don't have this company that's not idiot-proof. That's the...
But you could have given that advice to a bunch of traditional media companies 15 years ago. We'd have a lot different landscape right now. But let's talk about those apples, Barry Nalebuff. We're talking to Barry Nalebuff, school management professor here at Yale, who has had great success innovating with fun products attached to puns. And his new product is Maker Oats. You can buy it. We're going to talk about that in a second, which is you leave it overnight soaking with real milk or nut milks, and then you have a good breakfast.
Soy milk, kombucha, coconut water, orange juice.
So Barry, when did this go to market?
January of 2018.
So this has been sold for a year and then 3 months.
Yeah, the sales in 2018 were about $1 million, and I'd say we're heading towards 3 this year.
And where can I get this locally anywhere, or do I buy it on the web?
You got to go and tell the folks at Nika's that they got to carry it.
Edge of the Woods doesn't carry it?
I think Edge of the Woods carries it, and I think Hamden,
Time and Season.
Not Time and Season, Whitneyville Market in Hamden.
Oh, okay, excellent. And so that came out, and you have a bunch of flavors here. One is apple coconut.
Yeah.
One is banana coffee.
Yeah.
One is mulberry chia. It's all vegan, which is important to me because I'm vegan.
It's all vegan. It's all organic.
And I saw you play Yale Rep, which I really like to play. And you gave me a bag, which I really enjoyed tasting. And so what people do is you soak this overnight. The servings are made for you, and you have it in the morning.
Yeah.
What is the most popular flavor so far?
Well, I'd say that if you're a traditionalist, the apple coconut is the one to go with. If you're a little more adventuresome, go for the mulberry chia. Mulberries are kind of an improvement, in my view, over raisins. more tasty, fewer calories, more interesting. And if you're out there and you're an adventuresome type, my favorite is the coffee banana.
And that's your favorite, right?
That's my favorite, but I'll
Definitely
also
the one
say
I'm
it's
most
polarizing because not everybody likes coffee. And if you don't like coffee, stick away from it because it's made with real coffee.
So what about heat? One of the advantages, like I do make my breakfast every morning when
Yeah.
I'm not eating this. And like,
What do you mean when you're not eating this?
there are mornings when I have an
come
extra,
on, that doesn't
and I'm
work.
very rushed in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's pretty important to me to make something healthful that that at least takes that feels like real food. So I'll often make.
This feels like real food.
It does, yeah. So I'll make oatmeal and it'll be hot and fresh. Can this be hot? Does it taste good if you heat it up?
There's no rule against putting. Hold on.
Oh, those are the blinds, folks. Okay, thank you, Barry.
There's no rule against putting it in the microwave. You can do that.
How does it taste?
Hot.
But good? Like,
It's
does
fine.
the flavor
It doesn't change the flavor at all.
Well, there's something about fresh hot oatmeal that has a good texture. How's
yeah,
the texture?
texture's the same as with this. And we use.
So I will try it
We use
tomorrow.
extra thick rolled cut oats. So,
Okay.
So it's not soggy. It's not like these instant oats, which can often be mushy. And there are a couple companies out there which have the pre-made overnight oats. One of them I think is called Mush, which I think is an accurate name for its product. It's used in advertising. And so our product, you're not, if you put it in the microwave, you're not doing it to cook it. You're doing it just to heat it.
Okay.
And the texture, I think actually it's better cold, but as the movie says, some like it hot.
So you could have hot tea with it.
We could have iced tea with it.
I'm talking about if it's a cold morning.
I understand.
Okay. So Barry, and without it all knocking the product, I think it's a great product, a great idea. I think on a big scale, it does respond, as you said at the beginning of the show, to the challenge people have in their lives because we're so darn busy. And it's not just people with kids. Overwork people 2 jobs, or in some of our jobs, we just pile it on. I'm wondering if one other life hack besides a product is to make ourselves a little less busy, earn a little less money, accomplish a little less, maybe live without cable TV and big data plan so that you can have 15 minutes to make a breakfast. This would not obviate the need for your product because that's not going to be a scale solution.
Well,
But
I'd
do you
say-
think that might be a better answer? But still eat yours because it tastes good, but also make
No,
something on the side.
I think the answer is use that time to spend reading with your kids.
Oh, there you go.
Play sports, soccer, exercise. So, yeah, I'm totally down with enjoying life. But my view is I don't necessarily need to put running around the kitchen finding my mulberries and my chia, my ginger and my cinnamon. That's not to me a great source of joy. So,
There you go.
so find things to do that give you joy and let us do some of the drudgery for you.
Well, Barry Nalebuff, I think you seem like someone who does find a lot of that joy and can inspire us to do the same. And I wish you luck with your wonderful new product, Maker Oats. I encourage everyone to buy it or
Also
try it.
on Amazon.
It's on Amazon, Maker Oats. Also, Maker Overnights Oats seems to be the official name. And it's New Haven hatched. And I hope that you do just as great with this product and even better than you did with Honest Tea, Barry Nalebuff.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us
sharing.
today. And thanks everyone for joining us on WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. Thanks to today's guest, serial entrepreneur Barry Nalebuff. Boy, are his students lucky. They probably get a good snack too during the class. Thanks to Gale New Haven Hospital for providing support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.